Okay, so a quick discourse on veganism and humanitarianism. The main point of interest for me in this video is just how it sometimes seems like there's been a divorce between the two, or there's always imagined to be somehow a divorce between the two when dealing with these matters. When the truth of it is really that human rights are animal rights and animal rights are human rights. They're the same thing. You can't have one without the other. So, well, what do I mean by that? I mean, in all ways that's the case. Why am I bringing it up? The main reason why I'm bringing it up is because a lot of the time it seems that there are people out there that would like to call themselves vegans, but they avoid the humanitarian front. They do not engage in politics for the most part. They might engage in the sort of the crumbs of something like politics or the greater cultural, social narrative, dialogue, discourse, because that's the one they seem to be able to attack pretty intensely while at the same time maintaining a sort of social neutrality in a lot of ways. Because talking about animal rights is not as affronting as a fight for momentary, immediate human rights, as may be in one way or another denied to us either by the state or as a result of our friends and our family members taking on a bogus bullshit politic. It guards their ability to pretend to be conservatives. So, I'm a vegan. My diet, I love animals. I'm so compassionate. Let's cease from being savages. The barbarity has got to end. Yet at the same time, they guard their wallet. They guard their hoard. They guard their portfolio by presuming the right to be conservatives, political conservatives. So. Okay, well, the animal holocaust, it's a tragedy, what a nightmare. But the human holocaust, that's the result of, tribal Satanism and the broken politic that's been allowed in democracy, should never be allowed because it prescribes Holocaust through the removal of basic supports, basic provision, okay? The denial of any responsibility to provide for the basics of life, say shelter, provision of food and clothing and medical, which ought to be baked into the equation when you're brought out of a state of nature and put on the government program, which is what's been done to us. We all grew up in a state wherein there was a state of dominion by the lording empire of some kind that has claimed dominion over a land and taken the people out of a state of nature, okay? And then put us on the government program. We didn't get to, pick blueberries, or I didn't get to sew quilts and then sell quilts all the days when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15. I didn't get to do all that, make some economic gain to myself, put that gain aside, or use it to build a home or build whatever else. I didn't get to do any of that because I was on the government program, because they made very clear that they're private industrialists, okay, and their public services and their public agencies required a certain level of education for you to be deemed as acceptable or particularly useful to them in their enterprises, in their particular labors, okay? So we were brought out of a state of nature. We got nothing to do. There's no such thing as rugged individualism. We've all been raised to some extent as a communist. Now, they don't want to recognize that because in their politic, they could imagine that you're still an animal. They're telling you you're an animal. That's why they use that political Darwinism. They tell you you're an animal. They tell you it's a state of rugged individualism, as though you could just go and collect materials from nature. You can hunt and forage and build up a property. You can't do that for the most part. You can't. Everything is zoned. Yeah, you might be able to still stake a claim out there. The vast majority are not in a position to do that. Not even close. So you were born into a state of dominion and put on the program, and then they turn around and tell you, no, you're not an educated man. You're not a trained philosopher. You're not a person at law, clearly, as we raised you that way. No, you're not, any sort of a divine being that has been raised up out of the mud to become a socially responsible cultural being. You're nothing like that. No, 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 no. You're an animal. Darwin, survival of the fittest, fight or flight, blah, blah, blah. Right? So they're always lying to you to cover up the fact that they snatched you out of state of nature where you could have been taking gains for yourself the whole time. They took you out, you couldn't represent yourself or work for yourself. Instead, you were sat at a desk, told to sit out on the pine while their raiders went about doing whatever the hell they wanted and taking whatever they wanted, raping the land, reaping as they will, stealing, pillaging, warring. And then they want to come in with their politic and say, we have no responsibility towards these people. This is what I mean by accepting the human Holocaust. Okay? We've got no responsibility by these people. They're basically their own people. They're individuals, rugged individuals. Hey, we don't owe them anything. We don't owe them a home. Oh, they're homeless because of any one of the reasons why Hitler said he was able to throw people into a fucking gas shower. Oh, because he was disabled. Oh, because she wasn't a good life. She cheated on her husband. Oh, well, look, he looks like this or like that, and he just doesn't fit into the business culture. Oh, he's the wrong religion. Oh, he's got the wrong attitude. Oh, he's a political dissident. Oh, he should just learn how to shut up. Quit telling us, how it's going to be. Maybe you got to learn how to follow orders. Any list of a number of things that he's a vegetarian and we eat meat around here. When in Rome. They got a million different reasons. We're going to talk later about different forms of tyranny. And I talk about tyranny in my personality theory called Moral Dominion and Crisis Theory of Personality. It's a neo-psychodynamic theory from Freudian and Jungian heritage. Mind you, it fixes it. It makes them real. Freud is to be put aside. Jung got somewhere. He was getting somewhere, and I fixed it and made it even better. But we'll talk about the different forms of tyranny, say perceptual tyranny, or say tyranny of perception, tyranny of identity, okay? Tyranny of preferences, okay? We'll talk about the ways in which they apply a tyranny, either at an individual level in your attitude towards others, and it tends to form the basis of the characterizing personality of the tyrant. We'll talk about the different characterizing personality types, okay? Unlike Jung, who talked about introverted versus extroverted, thinking, feeling, intuiting, sensing, okay? Those are functional in nature, functional dynamics. I'll talk about the characterizing personality types, okay? And the tyrant is one. And baked in that are many ways that people use a tyrannical mindset to look at people and situations and ultimately create damage, destroy their life, lord over them, abuse them, deprive them of their rights, right? In an unlawful way, try to angle to take over and violate, while others are meant to suffer the abuses, okay? I'm not going to get into all of that right now, but that is to say, there are many attitudes, and under a tyrannical fascist government, the people are encouraged through many ways, through politics and propaganda. They're meant to take on tyrannical attitudes, because in a fake democracy, if it's seen in the people, the government acting in the same way, even though it came from the top down, from people with money in their industry, in their politics, in their rhetoric, in their stories, okay? See my past videos, tribal Satanism, so the chieftains, right? And then the priests and the shamans who tell the stories that make you all gummed up in the brain. And then the muscle, right? The warriors, the hunters, and then all the other little Indians, right? Or, tribesmen. You're probably one of the little tribesmen. okay, who are hearing all this stuff, but that we're a fake democracy. So when you have that negative tyrannical attitude, and that's how you want to judge people, and those are the sort of excuses and explanations you want to give. Oh, he's mentally ill, that's why he's on the street, and that's why he doesn't have a home, and that's why we don't have to give him shelter, and that's why we don't have to protect his life, and that's why it's okay that we let him freeze to death on the sidewalk in the middle of a 40 below winter in a brutal Canadian winter. No one beats an eyelash about it. No one says anything. If Hitler had said it, you'd say Hitler's a monster. Canadians say it and no one says anything. Oh, it's just casual coffee talk conversation. BS. There's nothing casual about it. It's the same old fascist system as ever. It is human extermination. It's Holocaust. Animal rights is a bougie place for moralists. Moralists, whether they're legit, they follow through, or they're not. They're going to sit there if they're bogus, okay? They're just not really, they're not really true, okay? They're going to sit there in the comfort of animal rights, acting as though they're high and mighty and whatever, while ignoring the Holocaust, because while they can give up the animal protein, the meat, and the dairy or whatever, they do not want to give up their right to gain, the benefits of a political arrangement between themselves as upper class or upper middle class people and the fascist state to benefit from the sort of provisions and allowances and blindsidedness that their rulership is given to people who are bulking up in power and influence by way of their accumulating wealth. Okay? They're not going to want to give it up because the way in which they are seduced, they're seduced by the fascist state is by giving doggy treats and little biscuits, right? They're meant to not think about the fundamental politics required to maintain law. And there is no validity of rule without law. So validity at rule, the result of having had achieved law, they're, with their compliance and their automaton conformity or their willingness to be bought and bribed, okay, are supporting up that state's ability to function despite being lawless anarchist trash that's imposing the Holocaust on the people. There ought to be a requirement for them to provide the basics of life. Even the United States government, their preamble and their constitution says life. It's the first thing, life. You got to provide the basics. They say, I don't want to be a socialist country. It's not about that. That's the basic standard. The state of legitimate arrangement and agreement between an empire that has taken people out of a state of nature and put them on their fucking program at any level. Like I said in the other video, look at my other videos. You can't have liberty without life, because if they don't guarantee life, you're living under a state of tyranny. So there is no liberty. There's only liberty if they guarantee life. That's why life came first. And pursuit of happiness is after that, because you only get to pursue happiness once your life's guaranteed, which means you're not living under tyranny, therefore it's liberty, and therefore you have the freedom to pursue happiness. But they're trying to get you to forget the other two because they want it to be pursuit of happiness only for who? The rich, for whom they don't have to worry about life. They don't have to worry about liberty. The riches buy them the liberty that is the price to gain liberty in a place like the United States of America, tyranny through economic criminality and political criminality. A state that allowed political parties to rule at government when their whole agenda at government is to stop the government from doing its job and allow for the corruption that allows them to abandon their priorities at government that put above and beyond all other things basic provision for those who have not. Then all the other fanciful notions that they might have for people who are already well-to-do, well enough, have already survived. You would notice this particular problem if we were at a smaller scale tribal level and all of a sudden your friends started disappearing? You'd say, whoa, something's going on. Whoa, something's wrong with the tribal leadership. Oh my God, Jack went out with the gang the other day. He didn't come back. Where did he go? Oh, they took away Jeff's hut, and he's been sitting there in the open. He tried to build a house of sticks. They knocked it down. They won't let him build the sticks. He's out there freezing in the cold. He starts a fire, and they kick it over and say it's not zoned for that patch of grass. You would know that what they're doing is murder. I digress. You cannot be a vegan unless you are a humanitarian. And there is no law without humanitarian considerations at law. Morality and hence the law are a function of understanding and appreciating harm and loss. Humanity is the great teacher of morality. There's no need for it otherwise. If there was no harm, no foul, there'd be no law. There'd be no need for it. The reason why there is law and morality, we understand it, is because it attempts to negate harm and give remedy when there is harm. Look at how the law works. There's no doubt about that. To ensure freedom for those who act morally and lawfully, doing no harm, but instead only enriching their lives, and putting stops and limits on people who act recklessly in a way that violate and destroy people's lives, or take away their rights, or destroy their inherent natural freedoms. I'm not talking about the supernatural freedoms of the ultra-rich to do whatever thing they could imagine without any kind of restraint. I'm talking about the things that human beings naturally do. I go out the house, I go for a walk, I get a girl, we can kiss the girl, we can have sex, no one's in my bedroom telling me what to do. I can have children, I can own property. My house is my house. Don't come and attack and invade my house, because I will drop you with an understanding that you've invaded with the intent possibly to harm my family. Law. In that we are contracting lawful positions, stipulations, agreements, that there will be no intrusion in our agreement, nor an effort to stop up or limit our ability to agree, and that we've done no harm to any other third party. Or there's nothing inherently unlawful about the nature of our agreement between us. Vegans are woefully outside of the conversation a lot of the time, and they leave people like me to do all the fighting for the people that are dying on the street, acting like what's out there on the street is not an open-air concentration camp, when that's precisely what it is. Like heads on sticks, like people hanging off crosses, like, bodies being hung out on hooks, displayed like the wreckage of a system that has no interest whatsoever in caring for the human dignity or the responsibilities that government to protect life, instead going counter to that, dangling that wreckage of a life that they've wantonly destroyed so as to terrorize you into compliance. So the fact that vegans are zip-lip about all of this begs the question of, have they been bought? Are they just a bunch of conservatives? And that's what we've got to watch out for. Them wrapping the narrative back into conservatism, which is just the sort of thing I'm talking about. Neolibs jumped right on board the fascist agenda. Fascist agenda. Neolib conservatives, the same thing. Fascists. And their main agenda is to have a government that acts wrongly, but also a government that does nothing when they should be acting responsibly. Like I said, watch my other videos. Neolibs, they get out of government, they try to get out, and then they take a bribe. Or they overreact when they do get involved in order to get you to lose the taste of having them save you from the fascist, criminally organized institutions that are abusing you. leaving you in a state to have to cry out to government, save me, help me, help me. And then they're like, oh, okay, we'll help you. And on the way in, they accidentally club you across the head. And they're like, oh, sorry, I guess you don't want my help anymore. Sorry, I guess I'm just not a very good hero. We're going to talk about war and how the war works to appease the fascist agenda in the next video. War as a pump for delivering humanity into a state that so badly mistreats its people, the people do not want to reproduce and create the vast numbers of progeny required to float the country from generation to generation. They treat the people worse and worse and worse, and therefore they back off of reproduction. They don't want a part of the deal. They know it's a bad deal, so they create a war elsewhere, and it creates a pump to drive people in. We're going to talk about the inherent insanity of their logic about war. Security of your own country versus, a desire to import slaves and increase numbers of population that allow for their economy to grow. Capitalism grows by increased demand. Greater sales, greater shareholding values. That only works when there are more people. They treat people like shit, lesser pay, lesser opportunities, they can't afford a home, and yet they still need more people to grow the country, and they won't reproduce, so they got a war to get them to run out of the other country. We'll talk about that in a minute. Back to veganism. Humanitarianism, veganism, the same thing. Let's get back to it. I digress, but we got to understand what I'm saying here. We are in one big animal pen. And we got a bunch of bad hombres running the place, a bunch of bad daddies that think you're a stupid idiot kid who can't figure out the basics. And then they're blaming you as though it's your idea. Like I said, they put that tyrannical mindset in your mind, and under a fake democracy, they point at you and say that's where it came from. It came from you. The government's a terrorist, tyrannical mess because we took their leaders out of their people. Ipso facto, what we're seeing is the leadership of a representative body, or a representative leader that speaks truly of the body public, generally speaking. It isn't true. They fed that shit down to you. Like I said, from their priesthood class of people, their propagandists, their bull nonsense religions. We'll talk more about religions. I'll tell you about what I believe is the true faith, my faith. It's baked into my theory of personality, like just mentioned, and my basic conclusion in the face of the challenges of the nonsense of their evil religions. My counter, just like a shield, just being moral vegan wonder. Like from the beginning, look, there's law and it looks something like this. Everything about what you say in your approach is nonsense at the level that it departs something from something like that. And that's, inherent in the Judaic example. I'm not going to get into the Bible right now, but it would agree with me. Real thinkers would understand, and it agrees with me. The Bible's on my side. Even though it describes endlessly the people who have betrayed any sense of God, any sense of real spirituality, as they take on the cultural trappings of the evil terrorist groups and religions that come after in that book. They're endlessly described. Not as a prescription, but as cautionary tales. Look at these evil madmen. People like me say, look at these evil madmen. Look at these cautionary tales. They'll tell you to follow after them and listen to them and model your life after them. They're not to be followed. You can take any sane good thing. It's a matter of good faith, goodwill, honorable dealings. They don't own it. Just because they said it doesn't mean that they own it. And they don't get to derail it by assuming some good part of it and then spouting crazy shit. Hooking you in with the good stuff so that they can drag you out to sea into the madness. They don't own that shit. Goodwill, good faith, fair dealings, inherent sane thinking And if you're going to have a faith, believe in anything, have a God, have it be a good God. You can't have a good God and follow them. All the way to Jesus, you're wrong. And I'll talk about that some other time, but I'm not going to get into it. Veganism is humanitarianism. Humanitarianism is veganism. Humanitarianism requires you to be a vegan. You cannot care about humanity and then go about doing the things that are entailed in slaughtering and consuming animals. It's not good for your body. You eat that stuff, it'll make you sick. You'll die young. You'll get sick. Don't listen to Joe Rogan, that fucking idiot. I insulted him the other day on Facebook. I said, Joe Rogan, your bros wear pantyhose, and then they practice BJJ all day. Elon Musk, your dad installed a lockless door on your mother's drawer so that men can barge in while she scrubs the floors. They're pathetic, evil agents watching after their agenda, and it's an evil agenda. It's an evil agenda wherein they will take it all to the horde, which is what they're after. They're liars, killers, and thieves. Ultimately, they're after everything that should be yours, and they will lie to you to your death if they can steal and hoard. And there's not a more hoarding motherfucker than Elon Musk. And Joe Rogan, despite being a fucking clown, has been rich for years. Okay? Look. Look at the periodicals. Look at the scientific inquiries into these matters. There's no doubt that eating a plant-based diet is the way to heal your body and to live a healthy life, and a life that will likely lead to longevity. And the additional benefit is it's good for the environment. There's no doubt. We could have these petty little sidebar arguments. Oh, but their animals die, and the cultivation and the reaping of the farm, yield. Yeah, that's right. But it's always going to be worse. The numbers are worse if you're taking that and feeding cattle. So we're reducing. You're expanding. So why are you looking at us like we're the bad guy? We're still following the principle as far as we can possibly go. You don't even want to look at it. So how are you anything like a good guy? You're not. Get fucking real, Joe Rogan. Don't you have a blowjob to perform on Duncan Trussell? Make yourself feel fucking spiritual again? Get as close that you can get to something like a female disposition and a heart to the land by blowing a fucking pussy dude with a beard? Fucking ridiculous. Look, there is a spirituality. There is a grand design. There are multiple layers of dimensional experience in this life, and it goes right to heaven. Look, you want to know why Joe Rogan, when he took DMT, saw a bunch of jesters laughing at him? Because it's telling him he's a fucking clown. And that's his best suit. Better not get too serious, because real fucking spiritualists do not take him seriously. And more than that, we see him as a fucking mortal threat. And he's a goddamn Sasquatch and the enemy of the narrative required to achieve law and save innocent people from fucking dying. If I'm the king, that man's in a fucking cage like the baboon that he is. He does not care. He's smart enough to understand, but he maintains the evil narrative that kills innocent animals endlessly. He never loses his bloodlust. No, he's got to go in his own hands, get his hands dirty himself. I come from a family of hunters and all this. I didn't go out and rush and try and get my hands on the fucking blood. My father did everything he could to keep my hands out of the blood. He wouldn't even let me cut my own fucking fish when I insisted on fishing. He wouldn't even bring me until I started nagging him for fucking months. Years. I never went hunting. He went every fucking year. My biggest crime is I stirred up a partridge and he shot it. And I felt guilty about it the rest of my days. I chose to fish, the only thing I ever did. And I ended up with a spiritual wound in my side for fucking 3 decades. You want to talk about spirituality, you want to talk about karma, especially from one who will find his way out of karma. Why? From baiting the hook. I always felt guilty about baiting the hook. It's evil. I always felt wrong about hooking the fish and ripping into their face or burying the hook so deep into his guts, you had to rip it out of his fucking guts. What's so good about it? It's a sign of poverty. Poor people do that shit. Got some rich asshole, Joe Rogan, running around like it's a fucking great thing to do? I come from a family who came in with the fur traders, had to hunt fish, forage. They inevitably had farmland, grow farm stuff on the farmland. Not one of them had a fucking attitude like it's a good thing to do. Not one! Although they all fucking went and did their best to have one shot, one kill, drop it, make it clean as possible. No suffering if they can, as minimal suffering as they could achieve. There's no fucking way out of suffering. You play that hand. A long time ago, I made a decision to stop fishing, and I don't. You know why? Because animal rights are human rights. Human rights are animal rights. It took me 3 decades to heal that spiritual wound. It was like a hook buried in my side. It kept my back in agony, like I couldn't quite fully breathe properly. You want to talk about? Look at the studies. They are going to tell you that eating meat is almost always a bad idea. No one should be living on ketosis. Dude, no one should be living on ketosis. Look at the studies. It's not good for you. It makes your breath stink. Who wants to live with someone who wakes up and they smell like a fucking dumpster with carcasses coming out of their mouth? Worse yet, you're denying the intelligence of humanity that's been hard won. Joe Rogan flippantly throws off all this BS attitude about this and that while disregarding the work of countless scientists. So much money went into providing the opportunity to look into these things formally using the scientific method, and Joe Rogan scoffs and acts like it's something to be dismissed. I gotta check to see if I have this even running here. It is running. Based on what? What are you offering instead of that, Joe? Your fight science? Your bro know-how? You should be fucking ashamed of yourself. Your bullshit is putting men in an early grave. Your fucking hyper-focus on something like uber masculinity is encouraging men to go get fucking roided up and drop before age 50. You're creating a standard of masculinity, having women follow after this, and men fucking thinking that's the way to the woman and the prize, and they're doing that, and like human sacrifices are burying themselves to get a taste of the tail. And the women don't give a fuck either. They're happy to have them do it. Carcass upon carcass upon carcass being thrown down the hole, and it only serves to kill those men. Because when they do that, they don't eat less meat, they eat more. And now they think you should be on an all-meat diet and go keto. You said it! You keep saying it, you stupid fuck! You fucking murderer! You need to be fucking greased up, pal. You should have been out there fighting those fights in the octagon, not sitting around laughing and having a good time. You shouldn't have been allowed to fucking talk that shit about those men getting in the meat grinder unless you were fighting at least as half as much as they did. Out there yourself. Till you took a stutter behind the fucking mic. You had no fucking honor. Zero honor. I digress. Oh, fuck. Human rights are animal rights. You cannot eat animals and not hurt yourself and hurt the people around you. Yes, there is an environmental impact to animal agriculture, factory farming. None of those words describe what they're doing. They're euphemisms, in case you didn't notice. Penning and torturing and slaughtering and violently, sadistically abusing animals. Look at the footage. There's no other game in town. That's what they're doing. Animal rights are human rights. You don't get to be someone who works at, talk about euphemisms, an abattoir. What a pretty sound. What is this? A fucking change room at a high-end fashion warehouse in France? Oh, come into the abattoir. What, is this where all the fancy orgies take place with the nation's most beautiful nymphs? Sherry the fairy's gonna come and rub me down and polish up my nipples and fucking, give me the, the showdown, not the lowdown? The abattoir, okay? No one gets to do the things that they do in an abattoir to animals and come out mentally better for it. They come out deranged and insane and evil and monstrous. These people are monsters. When they leave, they are monsters. Look at the footage of them sadistically abusing, destroying these animals. Destroying them. Putting a fucking, her just going up and just teeing off, kicking a fucking animal in the side of the face, smashing it with his, just putting his heel, trying to drive it through an animal's fucking skull. Grabbing it and smashing it against a fucking steel cage. You guys are still making a fucking argument for this? If you are, you've been the victim of your own inhumanity. And that means your humanity has failed and erred and decreased. I can look at you and call you a monster, and I'm right. I might as well be a king. I might as well be looking down on you and spitting down on you and ready to fucking put one right through you. To end your miserable fucking bestial life. You have no humanity worthy of my presence, worthy of my company. You don't get to talk to me like we're equals anymore, you goddamn fiend! This is not leather, by the way. It isn't. It's a cheap inorganic material that I bought because it's already out there. Best put it on my back before it ends up in the landfill. I know I'm not representing the best version of myself, but I'd have to be walking around in something like linens and organic hemp or something like this, unbleached or, unbleached or whatever, undyed. That's not exactly what's going on around here, right? So we're going to throw it all, no one's throwing it all in the trash. These are the times. I'm doing what I can to just make do. Like this production here. I've got some lights I just put up here. What am I supposed to do? I gotta find something to do. Maybe find work. Maybe this will generate passive income. I doubt it. I'm just staying with the art. This is what I do. Maybe I'll do art and something will happen. I'm representing a cultural narrative, and we'll talk later about the requirement for culture. The requirement of emerging to sanity and intelligence and sane standards at law. okay, and relation that allow us to emerge to a real culture because they've kept us in savagery. And their institutions ensure it, and their evil religions ensure it, that we will stay in a state of fucking insanity and general all-around savagery. Tribal Satanism is the imposition of madmen upon the people to ensure that those people remain savages. Savages! And they've done it to you. They succeeded. I'm a philosopher. You're likely a savage. I'm a lawman. You're likely an anarchist beast. And that's the truth. I'm a man of the people, but there are no fucking people. You have not achieved the law. You don't even want to. You're not even trying. You're not even apologizing for yourself. You're doubling down on evil. I am a man of the people. Good thing, though, because I need to be. It's not an option at law. Bad thing for you, though, because you are not even fucking measuring up to law. I'm more required to defend myself assertively if you fucking affront and violate me. I have no idea what you're capable of or what you'd be willing to do. You're fucking savages, beasts. Far be it for me to say, lest it disturb your fucking sensitive minds. We gotta keep tiptoeing around you? You're the worst. You're fucking evil murderers. You're unfucking forgivable after a certain point. And I gotta worry about saying things in a way because it might offend your delicate sensitivities and sensibilities? Fuck you! Fuck you! You are lining human beings up to die in as bad a way as the animals that you insist on fucking terrorizing and butchering endlessly. Human rights are animal rights. Okay? Why? Because you cannot achieve the law, you cannot achieve civilization, you cannot achieve heaven. Without heaven on earth, God loves all his creation. God keeps all of his creation. Love is real. It's an existential spiritual reality. And there's no compromise. When I say I love you, I mean it. Not just insofar as you benefit me, and then the second not so much, I come in with a knife and I fucking take you out. Not so far as you pull the plow, and if not, then I get in behind you and I fucking strangle you out. Oh, I love you. Oh, we've got an agreement, except for if you lose the game of musical chairs on the employment front, and I just got to, fucking nudge you off a cliff. Or until you get old and I'm like, oh, put him on the fucking ice float. Bye, Grandma. Oh, don't worry. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Bye, Grandma. Bye, Grandma. The spirit, your ancestors out there will receive you gladly. Don't worry, bye, Grandma. We'll be fine. Don't worry about us. Treat human beings like the animals that you've been taught to so disrespect. You abandon and butcher human beings like animals you've been taught to so disrespect. That's why they're always telling you you're an animal and you've got no spirituality. Your spirituality always wraps you back into being a savage when they give it to you in religion. You're never allowed to achieve heaven. You're never allowed to achieve sanity. Your soul is never allowed to be purified because you have a fucking bloody, spitting, pissing match all over it every time you speak. Every time you choose and act towards self and others. Shame on you for not even trying to heal yourself from that evil, that sickness. Shame on you. Shame on you, vegans, who have not taken up the cause of your brothers and sisters. Like we don't matter. Oh, the animals. Yeah, I agree. That's a fucking nightmare. We gotta stop it. What about us, though? What about our fucking human brothers being fucking put out to die? You never even mention it! How could I take you fucking seriously? About the animals. You care about the animals? Bullshit you do! How are we going to get the culture? How are we going to get this country? You think the animals are getting out at law when you won't actually get the state to recognize the right of human beings and their right to exist at law? Never gonna happen, asshole! Never gonna happen! You are not making a hard play for animal rights when you ignore human rights. It's an impossible fucking division and a breach. A gap, fucking a chasm too wide to traverse. You at least get to admit that human beings have a right to exist even when they're kept out of the great rewards of a fucking advanced civilization. Yeah, at least get them to guard the lights. Then we'd be able to nudge them over to protecting animals, maybe. Then they'd understand how all this stuff that they do to encourage industry to produce shit that kills human beings by getting them to consume animal products is itself a violation of human rights. Therefore, they shouldn't fucking invest in animal cruelty that provides those products. Divest from that. Quit subsidizing it. Instead, invest in and subsidize the stuff that heals people and makes them better. That's a sensible logic. That is progressive movement. That is successive approximations to the right answer. To civilization. Responsible government. You're not going to get from, oh, we don't care about healthcare. Oh, we don't care about how we invest our dollars, whether or not it hurts people or helps people. Oh, we don't care if there's a fucking human holocaust. We're letting people die on the street and we politically laugh out the side of our fucking face at the fact that we're getting away with murder as we steal away with a fucking vast fortune stolen out of fucking people's pockets, poor, middle class, upper class, all alike, so that, you know, they can fucking steal away with it, give it all to the rich, let the poor die. Oh, but we're going to save animals. Fuck, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here! If you're an animal rights activist, you must be a humanitarian. If you are a humanitarian, you must therefore be an animal rights activist. There's no way around it. They're all based on rights, and to have rights, you have to achieve the law. If you fail to achieve the law, you've implemented some kind of a concession that amounts to anarchy. Arguments of convenience that do not achieve the principle, and therefore that argument of convenience is always meant to foster criminality. And in fostering it, you preserve it. You prolong it. You promote it. Right? And there it proliferates, ongoing, inculcates, and we are sick. The fever hit me. Oh, I got tagged and now the venom courses through my veins. You drink poison, you will be poisoned. The state operates at the level of intoxication, and you will be a drunkard. Go ahead. Follow fucking your necromancer poisoning Jesus. He got you. It's the same old it's a cautionary tale. Like, it's nothing new under the sun. They didn't give you anything new. You just got taken in a different way. Pathetic. You're a fucking pathetic. You don't know how to read. You don't know how to read. You know why? You're a savage. Savages don't know how to fucking read. That's why you go and they go and you go